Welcome to the outside world. Today, we'll uncover the truth about Iran, a place often misperceived. For decades, it has been described as hostile, secretive, and unforgiving. A country where rules stifle freedom, where women seem invisible, and anger floods the streets. The headlines tell us one story. But what if much of that narrative isn't the whole truth? What if we turned off the news and dared to walk its streets? On this documentary journey, you'll discover a nation that doesn't seek sympathy, but rather to be seen for what it is. This isn't the Iran you've been shown. It's the Iran they never dared to print. The creativity and potential of its people are undeniable. Iran is said to be extremist in its ideology, in its isolation, in everything. But as you venture beyond the main avenues, into the alleys, that story begins to unravel. Beyond Tehran's highways, where bright signs proclaim slogans from another era, you'll find a different Iran, one that cameras rarely show. If you walk through Tehran's southern districts, you'll see children barefoot on the cracked cement, chasing plastic bottles instead of soccer balls. A man on crutches leans against a rusty pole, silently begging. A woman, her face hidden by a torn scarf, asks quietly if she has any bread left. More than 3.5 million people live below the official poverty line in Iran. According to the Iranian Parliament's Research Center, in some parts of Sistan and Baluch, more than 45% of children under the age of 12 will not attend formal school by 2023, not because school's prohibited, but because hunger speaks louder than education. Electricity is connected with plastic cords. A hot shower is a luxury, and drinking clean water is a gamble. In Khorramshahr city, ravaged by war and still rebuilding, residents must boil tap water or risk infection. Even on the outskirts of Tehran, power outages can last for hours, sometimes days. And yet, even here, kindness finds its way. Teenagers tutor younger children with chalk on brick walls. Grandmothers share tomatoes grown on vines in the garden. You won't see this on the evening news, but it is real. The silent struggle to remain human. So, is this all there is to Iran? Not even close. Tehran, a city of nearly 15 million people, pulses with contradictions. Rooftop cafes, French perfumes, underground ravzal, less than a mile from a kid selling gum on the sidewalk. Iran doesn't just defy headlines, it dismantles them. One of the most outdated still circulating is that Iran is a country where daily life takes place on camelback, with nary a trace of modernity in sight. But walk into any major Iranian city, and that image instantly disappears. In Tehran, you'll see high-speed metro lines, cashless cafes, and traffic jams filled with locally produced sedans and foreign imports. One American tourist finds Tehran's metro safer and cleaner than those in many American cities, with guided tours that make every street accessible. In Isfahan or Shiraz, you'll find shopping malls, co-working spaces, and neighborhoods with faster fiber optic internet than in many Western cities. Far from being stuck in time, Iran is home to one of the most self-sufficient science and technology sectors in the region. Despite heavy international sanctions, the country has made remarkable advances in aerospace design, nanotechnology, and nuclear research. If Iran can build satellites under sanctions, what's stopping the free world from solving poverty? Iran has launched its own satellites and continues to develop an independent space program. Engineers and scientists keep advancing, even without access to many global resources. And on social media, where filters can distort reality, the truth still manages to seep in. Accounts like Rich Kids of Tehran have gone viral, showcasing rooftop pools, designer brands, and private house parties. Of course, this isn't life for all Iranian. Rural villages still exist. And yes, some communities rely on donkeys for transportation in remote areas. But so do the innovation, hubs, startups, smart city initiatives, and young entrepreneurs who are transforming Iran's present. Iran isn't stuck in the past. It's living in two versions of the present at once. And that's what makes it so fascinating. One might expect Iran to be a place where books are banned, minds are silenced, and ambition is crushed by ideology. But when one steps onto a university campus in Tehran, Isfahan, or Mashhad, that image instantly collapses. Students, both male and female, gather in open courtyards, laptops in hand, exchanging PDFs via Bluetooth, preparing for project presentation competitions, robotics, fairs, and late-night poetry readings. In 2025, Iran's own Ministry of Education confirms something startling. Nearly 60% of all university students in the country are women. Think about this. 6 out of 10. And as for literacy, according to 2024 UNESCO data, more than 85% of Iranians can read and write. This is a higher rate than many neighboring countries, often considered more advanced. In lecture halls and clandestine study groups, Iranian students immerse themselves in artificial intelligence, philosophy, physics, and film. They develop apps, write novels, and debate global ethics. A shining example is Mariam, the late Iranian mathematician, who became the first woman in history to win the prestigious Fields Medal, the Nobel Prize in Mathematics. Her journey began in the classrooms of Tehran. Yes, censorship exists. VPNs are common. Banned books pass silently from hand to hand, but this isn't a sign of defeat. They're a test of resolve. Here, education isn't about passing exams. It's about daring to think. If knowledge is power, what does that say about a country where women rule the classrooms and rebels read philosophy by candlelight? Let's get one thing straight. Iranians are not Arabs. They never have been. And if you call them that on the street in Tehran, you might get an eye roll. a history lesson, or worse. It's one of the most persistent Western myths, lazily lumping Iran in with its Arab neighbors, just because they share a religion or use a similar alphabet. The largest ethnic group is Persian, yes, but Iran is home to a mosaic of more than 10 officially recognized ethnic minorities. Iran is a continent masquerading as a country. But guess what? Farsi isn't Arabic. It's an Indo-European language like English or French. Most Iranians wouldn't understand a single sentence in Arabic unless they studied it. Speaking Arabic in Tehran is like speaking Spanish in Moscow. Completely out of character. Yes, Iran is Muslim, but so is Indonesia, and no one calls Indonesians Arabs. So why this constant confusion? Maybe it's ignorance. Maybe it's media, laziness. Perhaps it's easier to slap a single label on the entire Middle East and call it Arab. But Iran has a 2,500-year-old Persian identity older than Islam, older than the Quran, older than most of the empires that tried to erase it. The architecture, the poetry, the food, the language, none of it is Arabic. And people are tremendously proud of that distinction. Is this harmless ignorance or a refusal to see cultures for what they truly are? For much of the world, Iran is seen as a threat, a country of missiles, militias, and danger. But if we zoom in beyond the headlines, something doesn't add up. Since the 1979 revolution, Iran has become the West's favorite villain. But there's one fact that's often overlooked. In the past 250 years, Iran hasn't launched a single war of conquest. Not one. Even the brutal Iran-Iraq War of 1980 to 1988, which cost more than 500,000 Iranian lives, began when Saddam Hussein invaded the country. And today, Iran's military strategy is explicitly focused on defense. Top generals constantly reiterate, "We will respond if attacked, but we will never strike first." Compare that to the military budgets of its neighbors. Saudi Arabia's per capita defense spending is 6 times higher, and the United Arab Emirates spends billions of dollars more annually than Iran. According to the Stockholm International Peace Research Institute, yes, Iran funds proxy groups, yes, its foreign policy raises suspicions, but there's a fine line between calculated deterrence and outright aggression. And here's the contradiction. When you walk the streets of Tehran, you don't hear war chants. You hear wedding songs. You hear complaints about work. You hear about people burned out from being reduced to political pawns. Iran's streets feel safe, with crime rates lower than many U.S. cities, according to travel advisories. Ask yourself then, is Iran really aggressive, or have we simply repeated the same story for so long that it's become true by default? Let's be honest, who benefits from painting Iran as the villain? So maybe Iran isn't the aggressor. He was simply wearing the mask we gave him. But that's just one layer. What else have we misunderstood about this country? Stay with us because the following fact could radically change your perception of Iran. They say the veil hides everything, that a headscarf erases a woman's power, her identity, her sensuality, but walk the streets of Tehran and you'll quickly realize it hides nothing. In fact, it challenges you to look closer. At the universities, women outnumber men. Their top engineering programs, fill medical schools, and win academic awards. But it's outside the classroom where their quiet rebellion becomes art. Iran's dress code attempts to silence them. But here women turn fabric into flirtation and color into resistance. That scarf is often pulled back just enough to reveal a perfectly framed face. Red lips, cat-eye liner, and cheekbones that have worn defiance for centuries. The long coat cinches just enough to hint at its shape. The heels click against the cobblestones, and the gold bracelets dance on their wrists like whispers. Everything is covered, and yet somehow more alluring. In today's Iran, the average age of first marriage for women has risen to 24.5, a marked increase compared to 2 decades ago. In Tehran, that number is even higher, approaching 29. Meanwhile, international marriage is slowly increasing, especially among educated urban women who study or work abroad. According to a 2023 study by Iran's National Civil Registration Organization, transnational marriages grew by 14% in the last decade, with many Iranian women marrying men from Europe, Canada, or Australia. Some see it as an escape route, others, a chance to finally be seen beyond the veil. So here's a question that might pique your curiosity. If Iranian women are so smart, so bold, and so driven, what kind of man, if any, do they really want? They say Iran is frozen in time, paralyzed by politics, trapped by sanctions, isolated from modernity. But then the metro doors open, and that myth quickly disappears. The Tehran metro comes to life. Clean, punctual, packed with students, workers, and grandmothers with shopping bags. It stretches 200 kilometers and has more than 130 stations, making it one of the largest metro systems in the Middle East. If progress advances like this underground, what else is the world failing to see above ground? In 2025, new lines reached satellite cities, offering working-class families vital access to the urban core. On the city streets, it's controlled chaos. Taxis, buses, and scooters ply the city's arteries, while smart traffic lights manage the flow. In cities like Isfahan and Mashhad, light rail and BRT lanes move millions of people every day. And it doesn't stop at the city limits. Iran's national rail system, with modern electric trains, runs from the Caspian Sea to the Persian Gulf, crossing mountains and deserts to connect the nation. In remote provinces, it's not just about infrastructure, it's about survival. Even when it comes to healthcare, Iran defies a stereotype. With more than 900 public hospitals, universal coverage, and world-class transplant and cancer centers, the country quietly leads the way in medical access. While the world looks the other way. We've all seen the images. Angry crowds, fists raised in protest, chants of death to America. It's shocking. And if that's all you've seen, it's easy to believe that Iranians feel animosity toward the West, or any of them. However, once you land in Tehran, you encounter something entirely different. As soon as you step off the plane, people offer help with your luggage, give you directions, and at the end of the day, a kind stranger might invite you to their home for a meal. The truth is, most Iranians don't hate Westerners. The anger you often hear is directed at policies, not people. What might seem like hostility toward entire nations is often frustration over things like sanctions, foreign interventions, and double standards that they feel have plagued their country. Still, most of this frustration is directed at governments, not the average In fact, Iran is one of the most hospitable countries on the planet. This isn't just a personal opinion, it's a pattern most travelers will confirm. In Iran, the hardest part of the day isn't navigating busy streets or overcoming the language barrier, but politely declining the fifth invitation for tea in just a few hours. Persian culture places immense value on hospitality, considering it a sacred and proud tradition. Hosting a guest is considered an honor, and most Iranians will go out of their way to ensure you feel safe, comfortable, and well-fed. Iranians don't hate you. They might ask you about your impressions of their country. They want to know if you enjoy the food, the architecture, or the poetry. If you show interest, they'll offer to show you parts of their world not often portrayed in the media. The deeper you delve into Iran, the harder it becomes to hold on to a single, simplified image of the country. Iran is far from one-dimensional. It's a place of complexity, culture, and contradiction. In 2023, Iran welcomed around 6 million international visitors, a significant 43% increase compared to the previous year. This number is expected to rise further, with projections suggesting more than 7 million tourists by 2024. This tourism boom highlights the shift in global perceptions of Iran, showing it to be a safe and fascinating destination despite its complex political landscape. Iran's hospitality, coupled with its rich culture and diverse landscapes, make it a unique and welcoming place. But to truly understand Iran, you need to experience it firsthand. Beyond the headlines, what if the most misunderstood thing about Iran isn't politics, but prayer? For outsiders, the view of Iran's religious life can be overwhelming. Black flags fly during televised Muharram sermons, citing scriptural laws written in the language of divine will. The word theocracy hovers over every image. But here's the truth. Iran may be ruled by clerics, but its people are not a religious monolith. Approximately 90% of the population identifies as Shia Muslim, yet millions of Iranians do not follow this path. Iran is also home to Sunni Muslims, Zoroastrians, Armenian and Assyrian Christians, Jews, and a rapidly growing segment of non-religious citizens. A 2020 survey by found that more than 47% of Iranians say they have completely distanced themselves from organized religion, a staggering number in a country where religion is law. And even among believers, there is complexity. Some attend mosques weekly, others only show up for funerals. Many participate in rituals out of culture, not conviction. Public demonstrations, processions, passion plays, mourning for martyrs. They are as much performance as prayer. Behind closed doors, especially among young Iranians, the questions resonate louder than chants. What does faith mean when it's tied to fear? Can belief survive when it's compulsory? Iran's religion isn't limited to scripture or sermons. It's about the tension between tradition and rebellion, ritual and reason. And in that vacuum, Iranians are quietly redefining what it means to be spiritual under surveillance. The headlines never show it, but it's there. Whispered, endured, and sometimes deeply believed. Step into Tehran, and the first thing you'll notice isn't the silence, it's the rhythm. Cafe's pulse, with indie rock and lofi jet. The atmosphere in Tehran's cafes feels like a small-town American gathering, where people exchange stories, laughter, and the rhythm of everyday life. Booksellers whisper quotes from authors from bands like Orwell and Hafez. At the same time, teenagers pose for selfies beneath murals of ancient Persian kings, dressed in knockoff Balenciaga and Doc Martens. TEDx Darren draws packed crowds where women summon hijab, some without debate ideas of transparency, feminism, and identity in a nation that claims none of it exists. And Esfahan's underground art studios host gallery nights, where bold paintings hang alongside portraits of martyrs. Yes, surveillance looms. Censorship is real, but so is rebellion. Quiet, creative, color. A student launches a startup amid VPN failures. A filmmaker edits a banned short film at midnight. A poet publishes metaphors that escape censors. This isn't a society crushed by repression. It's one that burns slowly, fiercely, with brightness and grit. Iran isn't gray. It's all the colors fighting to be seen. So when someone tells you that life in Iran is dull and hopeless, ask them when they last looked beyond the headlines. If you think of Iran, most foreigners imagine one thing: an endless, scorching desert, dotted with camels and ancient ruins. But that image is less geography and more Hollywood fantasy. Yes, Iran has deserts. The Lut Desert once recorded the highest surface temperature on Earth, over 70 degrees Celsius. It's crazy, but it's true. But just a few hours north, everything changes. Towering forests hug the Caspian coast, drenched in fog. In spring, rice cakes billow like green silk. In autumn, the slopes blaze in shades of gold and red. Drive west, and the Zagros Mountains greet you with snow-capped peaks and glacial winds. Tehran itself touches the Alborz range, and within an hour you're no longer walking on sand, but skiing on powder. Dizin, one of Iran's premier ski resorts, sits at over 2,600 meters above sea level, a greater distance than many others in Europe. From subtropical humidity in the south to alpine chill in the north, Iran's climate varies more than most imagine. Farmers grow citrus fruits, pistachios, wheat, and saffron, all within a few hundred kilometers of each other. So, no, Iran is not a one-season wonder. It is a land of opposites, bound together by elevation, latitude, and survival. If we reduce it to sand, we erase the snow. And in doing so, we erase the people who call it home. If Iran has forests, ski resorts, and blizzards, why isn't the media still selling them anything but sand and fire? Is this vague reporting, or something more intentional? Traveling to Iran isn't just about visiting another country. It's about embracing the contradictions, the complexities, and the incredible hospitality that make it unique. The experience will change your perspective and challenge preconceived notions. So, the next time you hear something about Iran, remember that it's not just the headlines you should heed. The world is full of stories waiting to be explored. And Iran is one of the most misunderstood, yet most fascinating places to see firsthand. If this episode changed your perspective on Iran, leave a comment and tell us how it changed your views. And for more eye-opening stories like this, subscribe to Fellow Travel. Let's travel together beyond the surface. Because the world isn't just what we hear, it's what we're willing to see and feel for ourselves.